This is the final year studio where our most experienced students, graduate students, are working during term time. And we've got this fantastic extraction system, so that extracts any kind of solvents or vapours that are in the studio while students are working. And you can see it's a lovely bright studio here at Vernon Square in this school building, which has been converted into conservation studios for us. So this is the room where we do technical examination of paintings, not just the paintings that are restored here, but also for people outside who want to have an X-ray of a picture or to do photography or infrared imaging. We've got a fantastic new digital X-ray machine, which is adapted for paintings that are, so the painting goes on top of that and we X-ray it. And we can display hard copy X-rays on the screen. It's a fantastic digital X-ray, brilliant. We have infrared imaging, we have XRF spectroscopy, which allows us to look at elements in paintings, and we have a sort of suite of technical examination that we can do. This is the second year studio, so we would have students working in here who are working pretty independently on paintings. We have a fantastic microscope, which we could not do without. We have a humidification system here, which is blowing my hair, which keeps the environment steady in terms of moisture content. More extraction systems, panel paintings, paintings on canvas, paintings on other supports. We have a fume hood. So this is the room where we do varnish pictures. So there's a big extraction system which again sucks the solvents out while we're varnishing paintings, and a table on which we can reline paintings or line paintings when their canvases become too fragile to support them, or we can attach strips around the edge. So this is for structural treatment of paintings, this room. Another studio with special solvent cabinets in which we can keep solvents safe and according to health and safety rules and regulations. Extractions, microscopes, racks, and other things that are necessary for conservation. Okay, so I'm going to show you, this is the archive, which is probably the most important room in this conservation department, which contains records of paintings studied and treated since 1932, when the Institute was set up. Initially as a place where you could examine paintings, but then later on in the 70s there was a course for restoration of paintings. So all the treatments and documents associated with my predecessors are kept in here, and it's a fantastic resource. But now I'm going to show you the lab. That's what I love. So this is the laboratory where we can look at paints, very small paint samples. And once again, this kind of work's been done since 1932. So we have a fantastic archive in these pots of tiny paint samples taken from many paintings, including some very important pictures. And we don't need to take more samples because we already have them. And we can study these in great detail and look at the pigments in the paintings and look at the paint layer structure, which is very important when you conserve a painting. And in these cabinets we have historical paint samples, which can, organic materials and inorganic materials that we used for painting. This is, for example, some cloth from which dye can be extracted, and then that dye can be made into a red pigment, which was used by artists. And so things like corn flour, things used to make paintings, some different sorts of woods that we also use for different kinds of materials, and other sorts of synthetic pigments which are more modern. But we have a fantastic pigment collection, so that means we can teach the history of pigments used in works of art, which is something that we do here at the Courtauld. So this is all the equipment we use for preparing the paint samples, and the microscopes are used for looking at the samples. I'll show you a few more fantastic. These are, for example, these are pig's bladders, and they were used before the invention of the collapsible tube, which was used for storing paint. So before the collapsible tube in 1840, paints were stored in these pig's bladders. They're rock hard now. So it explains how the invention of the collapsible tube allowed artists to go out into outside the studio and make works of art. So Impressionists and Post-Impressionists then got a chance to do plein air painting. But before that, it was much harder to prepare paint. It just dried very quickly. So we have pigments like earth pigments, and we've got lovely things like the kind of pigments made from glass, ground up glass, called smalt, which was shades of blue. It's very nice. And mineral pigments like azurite or malachite, which could be ground up and mixed with oil or egg, for example, or glue, to be made into beautifully coloured pigments. They're used for paint. So it's a lovely collection of historical materials, which is useful for teaching.